Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matty Brolick, and I am bringing you all Week 6 of Season 8 in the National Pokeball League. Now, this is a big week, ladies and gentlemen. It is a colossal week. If you did not see the hashtag Pokedrama TTM video that came out earlier this week, then I suggest you go watch that first. But if you did see it, you would know that I hyped up this game quite a bit in that video, because for Week 6, we are playing none other than Regulator and his Los Angeles Clefable. So, a fellow Los Angeles team, and we are playing for a lot more than just a record and differential here, ladies and gentlemen, because he's been on a 3-game win streak, and everyone he's been beating has been putting washed up in their names on Discord. So basically, everyone that he beats admits to being washed up because he claims to be washed up himself. So if I lose this game, then I have to admit that I'm washed up. And like I said, there is just no way that I am washed up. I can't be washed up. It's not possible. So that's why we need to win this game, because we're not washed up. And also, if I lose, then I have to use cupcake songs from the what's it called, rapper or musician, singer, whatever you want to call her. I'm not exactly sure what she is, called Cupcake. I need to use her songs in my videos, whereas if I beat him, then I will make him use anime weeb songs in his videos, because the most important thing at the end of the day is that Greg starts to realize that anime is life. And who better to get him to realize that than everybody's favorite WWE Abu, Matty Brolick. You know what I'm saying? So this is a big game. This is a big game. And it's also a big game in terms of NPL record and whatnot as well, because overall we're doing pretty well this season, I'd say. We got 2 really good wins, but then we lost one to Hacks to Trev, which definitely kind of stinks. And then we lost last week to Gypsy King, and even though that was a really good game and it was a lot closer than the score showed, it still ended up being a 4-0 loss for us. So that took us from a +3 differential down to a -1. So we're 2-2, -1. Overall, I'm happy with how the season's been going in terms of my performance for the most part. I know I made one pretty big mistake against Gypsy, but other than that, I think I did really well and had a good chance to win had certain things gone my way. But that's all in the past now, so it's not something that I could focus on. But whatever it is, you know, I'm not letting it get me down. I have to stay focused and continue to do my best. So that's why this is a really important week, because if we beat Greg, we will go back into the positive, both in record and differential most likely. And if we lose, then playoffs all of a sudden could be tough to make, because a couple mistakes here and there could cause me to lose. A couple of hacksy games could cause me to lose down the road. And if I'm going in at 2-3, it makes it a lot harder than if I'm going in at 3-2. So this is going to be an important game for us to try to win. And Greg, like I said, has been doing well. He's on a hot streak. He won his last 3 games after losing week 1. And he's looking good. He's got a really powerful team, and it matches up really well against mine. Kind of notice a pattern here that I keep getting these rough matchups, and I am someone who generally gets paranoid about matchups, I'll admit that. But even when I'm paranoid about matchups and I think of all the worst case scenarios, I usually end up coming up with a team that I feel really comfortable with, and that hasn't been happening in some of my NPL games. For example, the one against Trev, I didn't feel good. The one against Gypsy, I didn't feel good about the matchup, but what he actually ended up bringing, I did feel good. I had a chance. I had a pretty good chance to beat the team that he actually did bring. But overall, I didn't feel good about that matchup. And against Greg, I definitely don't feel good about this matchup either, because you can't see my top Pokemon, but I have Celesteela, Latios, Azumarill, and Nidoking above these, and these are the rest of my team. Now here's Greg's team down here, and his first 2 Pokemon, you got Z-Landorus T, which is widely regarded as one of the best Pokemon in the format, and I can surely agree with that, because I've used Lando in the past. It is amazing. And with Z-moves, it allows it to just break through pretty much every solid defensive check. Celesteela would normally be one of the good or solid it would be one of the solid Landorus checks rather, but the fact that it's got the access to Z moves makes it a lot harder to check. For example, I probably can't even take a +2 Continental Crush after Stealth Rocks, if we're being honest. So something like that could be really likely because Gypsy brought Continental Crush Garchomp last week against me, which made a lot of sense because my only rock resist is Nidoking, which number 1 isn't a Garchomp switch in, and number 2, even if I do switch it in, it's going to take a million. So it's not even a safe scouting tool. So that is why, that is one of the reasons rather that I feel really threatened by the Landorus. He could run something like Z Superpower for Celesteela. Any of Landorus' Z moves could put in a lot of work against me, basically. And one of the biggest flaws of my team is that I have a pretty large speed gap between Nidoking and Latios, going from 85 to 110. I have nothing in between that. And Landorus does actually fit right in between that. So it is able to come in against my team, get Intimidates on things and force them out, either get up Stealth Rocks, get U-turn for momentum, or just straight up break things with really powerful Earthquakes, or even more so with Z moves. So that Landorus is a major threat to my team. And Mega Charizard X is a Pokemon that both Greg and I can agree on being overrated. I definitely think it's overrated. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent about Charizard X right now, but overall I just think it's that type of Pokemon that is not nearly as good of a Dragon Dance sweeper as people think, because it's fairly easily revenged by Scarfers, because its speed tier isn't that great for a sweeper or a setup sweeper. It often wants 4, or it often has 4 move slot syndrome, where it wishes it could have that one more move that would really make the set perfect. But unfortunately it can't do that. And then finally, probably its biggest flaw is the fact that it has to come in normally as regular Charizard. So if Stealth Rocks are up, then it's just losing half of its health right on the first switch in, which is really bad for a Pokemon that does appreciate its bulk, because it has a really good defensive typing. So being healthy allows it to set up much better. It allows it to wall certain things, and also it's a Pokemon that runs Flare Blitz a lot. So Flare Blitz can wear itself down, especially if it's taking Stealth Rock damage. So Charizard requires a lot of support, and it's that type of Pokemon that I think is a lot better on paper than it is in practice. So with that being said about Charizard, unfortunately I can't say the same about my matchup against it, because it also, like Landorus, falls in between that speed gap that I have, which outspeeds the vast majority of my team, allowing Charizard to run even Adamant and outspeed Nidoking still, and just bust my team wide open. He doesn't even need to set up, he could just attack. And even if he wants to set up, he could go with something like Swords Dance, because Dragon Dance might not give him the power to kill everything in one shot, especially if I'm running something like Lure Berries on certain Pokemon, whatever it may be. Whereas Swords Dance will definitely push the power over the edge, where he could just one-shot pretty much everything on my team. So that is why Charizard is so good against me, and unfortunately its overratedness doesn't really apply here, I would say. So that is petrifying. And he's got Scizor, he's got Rotom Wash, which is just a really, really good Pokemon, especially with the addition of Defog. He's got Scolipede, which is a big threat. I do have one of the best Scolipede checks in Celesteela, but as you're going to see, I can't really afford to use my Celesteela as a Scolipede check. He's got Gardevoir and Celebi, 2 really solid Pokemon in the format, 2 really good Psychic types. Gardevoir is definitely an underrated fairy in my opinion. He's got Stakataka, which, even though I don't think is a great Pokemon, okay, it's hard. So Celesteela, Stakataka should never be your Steel type. If you're drafting Stakataka as your only Steel, there is a problem there, because it cannot function properly as a Steel type. But if you have another Steel type, then Stakataka can really thrive, because you could just use it way more as an offensive Pokemon, and it is very, very good at that, because it is one of the biggest offensive threats in the whole game, I would say. Under a Trick Room, that thing just demolishes teams, and my team is no exception. Stone Edge hits Celesteela very hard, as my team, like I said, has only 1 rock resist, being Nidoking, and then Gyarados blows everything else away. So it's just ridiculous against me. I really need to be careful around that Stakataka. Raticate, Alolan Raticate is a menace against me, because Sucker Punch is such a huge threat against my team, because my Dark Resists are Tyranitar and Azumarill. And that was a big problem when I faced Trev with Mega Mawile, but at least Tyranitar could outspeed Mawile and run something like Earthquake for some major damage. But in this case, Raticate has a higher natural speed than Tyranitar, so if he's faster than me, then he could have something like Revenge, which at +2, even if he's not going second, will still probably kill me, or at least do a million. So Raticate is an absolute menace against me, and Sucker Punch just threatens me like crazy. So that is really, really terrifying. And then finally, he's got the Toxicroak, which is also quite good against me because its coverage, dual stabs are generally really good against me. And I have a Azumarill, which if I choose to bring it, it can really take advantage of, because if I'm locked into a water move, it pretty much gets free setup against me. And it kind of falls in between that speed gap as well, because it is it's got the exact same speed as Nidoking. So if he does bring it and runs max speed, then unless I'm up max speed Nidoking, then he most likely falls right into that speed gap. And even if I am max speed Nidoking, it's a speed tie. So that is a bit of a risk to want to stay in and attack it, or it's a bit of a risk to be able to kill it. So that is another massive threat to my team. Overall, I do not like this matchup. But seeing as he has all these just major powerhouse threats against me, it tells me that I think my best bet is to go with something hyper offensive, because if I bring something defensive, he just has the tools to overwhelm me, even if he brings something relatively obvious or standard. You know, as long as he plays it pretty well, there's a good chance he's going to be able to overwhelm me and just eventually beat me. So I am going to try to overwhelm him first, catch him off guard with some things, and just see what happens. So hold on, let me just check my sound. All right, we still got the sound. All good. So now we'll move right into the team builder. As leading off, I'm so glad that I'm able to bring this. I have my Unmonferno. It is the middle stage evolution of my favorite Pokemon, Infernape, so I'm really happy that it's on my team. I didn't know if I would get to use it, so I was happy that I was able to build with it here. Now, it's a pretty basic set, just a Sash Stealth Rock lead, but it actually is pretty good against him because it outspeeds Gardevoir and a good amount of his team, I guess. Actually, not really. He's got a lot of fast Pokemon, but it outspeeds Gardevoir, which is kind of cool, I guess. And it can Stealth Rock on a lot of things. I have Encore, which is really important here, as if he was to go into something like Charizard X, want to either set up on me with Dragon Dance or Roost up on me after taking Stealth Rock damage, I can Encore him into that, which gives me a lot more momentum. Even allows me to potentially save Monferno as a sack. And Fake Out is also nice for something like Scolipede, because if he happens to run a Sash lead Scolipede with hazards, then I could Fake that out, unless he goes for Protect turn 1, and kill it with Flamethrower on the next turn, unless he has enough bulk to live one. So that is quite nice, if you ask me. Now, Flamethrower generally has pretty good coverage against his team. I did consider Endeavor, but the Mind Games I just don't think are worth it here, because I really need to keep up momentum in this game. And Flamethrower just has pretty good coverage against his team all around. And if he knocks me down to my Focus Sash, then Blaze boosted Flamethrowers are actually really strong. So that is, well, not really strong, but they definitely don't tickle, so that's kind of cool. And that is the set, just pretty basic, but definitely effective here. Normally Nidoking could do a Sash lead roll a little bit better than Monferno because it's faster. It also gets Taunt. It doesn't get Fake Out, but it gets Taunt and just has way more offensive presence. Also could run Toxic Spikes too, but I need Nidoking for other things here, so that's why I was kind of forced to go with Monferno. Now we'll start off with Brock Lesnar, the Mega Tyranitar. This is one of my win cons this game. It is a max speed, max attack Jolly set. I couldn't really think of where I needed bulk. I tried doing some calcs and I couldn't really find any that were like, okay, I really need extra bulk for this. And I do kind of need a lot of power against this team. Now the reason I'm max speed is because, let's say I'm at +1 and he brings in Scolipede to revenge me, he's going to have to protect to get up to +1, and if I Dragon Dance again with this much speed, then I actually will creep the Scolipede at +1, and, you know, it's unlikely probably to him that I'm going to run max speed Jolly Tyranitar because I just don't really have a reason to, but this actually can outspeed the Scolipede at +1, which would be amazing, because if I get to +2, as long as I'm out of range of something like a Scisor's Bullet Punch, then I pretty much just sweep with this. Crunch, Earthquake, Ice Punch has perfect coverage against him. Ice Punch is really important for Landorus because if he's not Yachi Berry, then a +1, which turns into neutral, Ice Punch will still kill Landorus. It's that strong. And Crunch hits most of his team really hard, and Earthquake is pretty important for Stack Attacka as well as Charizard X, as obviously Stone Edge hits Charizard harder, but I, number one, don't like risking the misses, and number two, just couldn't really fit it here, as if he does bring Stack Attacka and I don't have Earthquake, then this is just pretty much hard walled, and Superpower, there's no reason I'm going to bring Superpower with a Dragon Dance set either. So that's what I was going with this set. If I could get rid of Scizor, if he doesn't bring Scizor, or if I'm just out of range of Scizor, then this set could really put in work at +1 or even +2. So that is quite cool. Now next up we have Cyrene, the Azumarill, a pretty fat Choice Banded set. I can't remember exactly what the bulk was was designed to do. I think it had to do something with taking a +1 Thunder Punch from Charizard X, but it is a very bulky Azumarill that allows me to deal with Charizard X much better. The Aqua Jet priority is really important in this game, especially if you bring something like Raticate, because Raticate is just so good against me. So having that priority Aqua Jet is really nice against that potential threat. Now, the rest of the moves are pretty basic. Celebi and Rotom don't appreciate taking things like Knockoff. Obviously, Play Rough does a lot to those as well, but if I don't want to risk a miss, or if I think his Celebi might be able to shrug off Play Roughs because it's just really bulky if he runs physically defensive, then Knockoff could be nice. Even if it removes a Cobra Berry, that could be nice for my Tyranitar as well. So that's pretty much it with the Azumarill. Didn't really need any speed or anything like that. And I'm actually brave because this will help me against a Stack Attacka under Trick Room, because Gyro Ball will do much less. And that might catch him off guard because he probably won't want to risk the Stone Edge, and he might go for Gyro Ball, which will allow me to take it if I'm healthy enough and return with a Liquidation, which will probably kill it if he's a lonely set. So next up we have Meruem, the King, Nidoking, and we have an interesting set. We have a speedy, physically defensive set with enough speed for Gardevoir and enough defense to live a +2 Metal Coat Adamant Scisor's Bullet Punch, and also a +2 Life Orb Scoliped's Aqua Tail, because we have the Pasho Berry. So that is nice because it allows me to check both of those with Flamethrower. Flamethrower kills Scolipede after Stealth Rocks 100% of the time, unless he's running like a specially defensive set, and even so, that wouldn't threaten my team. And it kills Scizor for sure. If he's Aqua Berry, then he could live one, but if not, he will go down. And even so, just weakening the Scizor would be really, really nice for my Celesteela, because as you'll see soon, I don't have fire coverage on that. So overall, this coverage is quite nice against this team. The Earth Power is really important for that dang Stack Attacka as well as Charizard X, as we could take any one hit from Charizard X from full. And we also have Stealth Rock on here as the last move, because Rock's pressure against him is very, very important. And if he's able to defog Monferno's Rocks, then there's a good chance I can get him up with Nidoking later on in the game, especially because he won't expect it. So that is quite nice. The coverage is good against him. The special attack, even though I don't have much invested, I could still do some damage just because Sheer Force basically gives me a Life Orb boost. So it's not the weakest thing ever, especially considering he's got a pretty offensive team. Next up, we have Latios Heat, the Latios, the Choice Specs Latios. We have enough speed for the Charizard, and I was just pretty safe with my speed creeps in this match because I couldn't really find really important things that I wanted to be able to live and whatnot. So I was kind of safe with my speed creeps in this match for sure. But overall, this set just breaks him really, really nicely, unless he happens to just bring a really good set of 6 that can handle the moves that I want to spam here. His only resist to Shadow Ball is Raticate, which is an immunity. Other than that, if he doesn't bring Raticate, Shadow Ball just goes in. And Surf is quite nice too if he only brings 1 water resist, but if he brings something like 2 steals or 1 steal and Gardevoir plus both Celebi and Rotom, then it becomes a lot harder, because plus Raticate, of course, because if he brings those 5, then or a combination of those 5, that type of thing, then breaking with Latios becomes a lot more of a daunting task because it requires prediction. It requires, yeah, mostly prediction. You know, like it's just not easy. I can't just come in and spam things. Whereas if he doesn't bring Raticate, I could come in and spam Shadow Ball. If he only brings, say, 1 Steel type and no Gardevoir, I could spam Dragon Pulse. And if he brings only 1 Water Resist, I could spam Surf. So it would be annoying if he brings, you know, those combination of 5. It would be very, very bad. But hey, I have a bad matchup, so I have to do what I have to do. And Memento is important because even if Latios isn't that useful, or if I've done, you know, if it's done its job breaking and I'm able to get it in one more time for a Memento, that is nice because that could help both Brock Lesnar, the Tyranitar, and my last set over here, bring Selly up. We have an Autotomized Celesteela, which is something I, you know, was looking forward to getting to use this season because Celesteela is an obnoxious Pokemon defensively, but the offensive sets are pretty cool. So I get to run an offensive set this week. It was a really tough set to pick the moves for because Energy Ball, Energy Ball versus Air Slash, these were 2 moves that I needed for sure, but it was tough for me to pick which Z move I wanted because overall, Z Air Slash is way better against this team. But there's just that Rotom, which has been so annoying, and with Spadef Leftover, Spadef 50% Berry, whatever he decides to bring, those have constantly allowed the Rotom to just barely be out of range of Energy Ball when I've been trying to set up. So it's been too hard for me to keep Rotom low enough to where I could guarantee that it's in range of Energy Ball when I'm at +2 speed. And because of that, I was like, you know what, I just feel like I have to run the Gracium here because if I'm at +1 with Celesteela, then things like Charizard die after rocks, and everything else takes a ton of damage. Landorus dies after +1 HP Ice, and HP Ice was another move that I was struggling with. I considered Fire Coverage for Scizor, because Scizor is pretty annoying, and this is supposed to be my Scizor check. And I don't have Flying Name Z either, so kind of strange, but it's just kind of what I had to do after experiencing my mocks. And I also toyed around with HP Ground a little bit because of how threatening Stack Attacka is. I could live any +1 hit from Stack Attacka and revenge it, or at least do a million with HP Ground, even if he Shuka or something like that. So that is nice, but I just, at the end, wasn't seeing too many Stack Attackas in my mocks and felt that HP Ice would have been more useful because a lot of times Landorus was able to avoid getting one-shotted by a +1 Air Slash, and it was able to do a ton of damage or knock me out with a Z move. So it was really tough to pick the right coverage for this set, but after my experiences with my mocks, these seem like the optimal moves. So that is it for my team builder and team preview, and now we will get on to the actual battle. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the battle for Week 5 in the National Pokeball League Season 8. I think that I kept saying Week 6 in my team builder now that I think of it, and I don't know why I was saying Week 6, but it's not Week 6, it's Week 5. So, yeah. Let's just talk about the team preview real quick. I need to get through this battle quickly because I actually have somewhere to go as I'm recording this, but knowing me, it's not easy to get through these things quickly. But let me just go over this team preview. Remember when I said how hard it would be for Latios to break if he brought something like 2 Steals plus Raticate? Well, he did that. He brought, oh, I know, 2 Steals plus Raticate and 2 Water Resists. He did just that. He brought both Celebi, Rotom Wash, Scizor and Stack Attacka, and Alolan Raticate, and Charizard X. This is essentially the worst case scenario for what he could have brought. This team that he brought just bodies what I have. It is so hard for me because even with Celesteela, like, I put HP Ice on this for Landorus, and of course he brings the Stack Attacka. What's it called? Latios can't break nearly as easily. And then, is there anything else? Oh yeah, I have Ice Punch on this Tyranitar, where Fire Punch would be so much better because I could OHKO the Scizor if I'm not in range of Bullet Punch. Just overall really, really bad. Azumo's priority isn't as nice because, yeah, he didn't bring the Toxicroak, which is nice, but he does have 2 really solid Water Resists. So, overall, this is kind of a worst case scenario. So, at Team Preview, I'm so disheartened because I'm like, this is going to be tough to beat. I'm going to need to catch him off guard, or just really outplay him to be able to win. And Greg has been playing really, really well this season, and also I know he's taking this game rather seriously because we both have a lot on the line in this one. So I know this is just going to be a tough match. So I'm hoping for the best as we will get right into it. As you already know, I'm about to lead with my Monferno as he leads with Rotom Wash. I go for the fake out. This will help me scout if he's leftovers or not, and he indeed is not leftovers, but he outspeeds me. That tells me that the fake out damage tells me that he is max HP, but probably Spadef. If anything, just, you know, not physically defensive, but the speed tells me that he's probably enough speed to creep Nidoking, which means he's nearly max speed. So he's really not as bulky of a Rotom as I was expecting, so that is kind of nice for Celesteela. But here, he brings in Charizard, and I just click Encore because I can't allow this thing to set up on me right now. I have to stay in as he just goes right for the Flare Blitzes. Here I go into Latios, and I'm just going to click Dragon Pulse because he doesn't have Gardevoir, so I know at least it's doing damage to something. He goes in a Stack Attacker, and I Dragon Pulse it twice because that damage just told me that he was max HP. There's a chance he could have been like a bulky set with Stealth Rocks or something, but he actually stays in and goes right for the Stone Edge. I was actually expecting him to go right for the Trick Room here. So I'm like, okay, if he attacks, he's most likely going to go for Stone Edge because of my Celesteela. And if he's Trick Room, then he's most likely going to go for Trick Room right here. As then he could just kind of fire off attacks. Like, he can go for Gyro Ball, not worrying about Celesteela outspeeding him and whatnot. So, thankfully he doesn't go for Gyro Ball here, because if he did, he just would have knocked my Latios out. But I kind of had to make the aggressive play, because it totally made sense for him to either go for Trick Room or Stone Edge here, more so than Gyro Ball, I think. But, like I said, this matchup is so bad that I need to kind of play a little bit of aggressively to put myself in a decent position. So, thankfully, he is in range of another Dragon Pulse. I thought he might switch out to Scizor there, but he does not. That's cool. As here he goes into Scizor, and he might have Pursuit, but I just have to switch out. I don't really have a choice. As I go right into Nidoking, and that tells me that he's max attack, Adamant, but not Choice Banded, not boosted. So I don't know what his item is. Maybe he's got a Berry. Maybe he's got, I don't know. I don't know what else he would be, because he's only got one weakness, which could be Aqua Berry. But I don't think he'd be Choice Scarf, and that's obviously not Choice Band, so I don't know exactly what his set on this Scizor is. But I know that he's Adamant max attack, and now I know he's probably going to switch out and not risk this, but I'm just going to go right for the Flamethrower, because I don't lose too much by it, as he goes right into his Rotom. I wanted to Sludge Wave, but I didn't want him to SD if he was Aqua Berry, and then, you know, just be able to knock me out of +2. As here, I am able to Sludge Wave this Rotom, as we do a hefty chunk. That is nice, because this puts, even after the Berry, this puts Rotom in guaranteed range of Celesteela's Grass EMZ. And here he goes for the Hydro Pump as I calc, and I know I can live this and get up my rocks. So I'm able to keep up the rocks for this game, which is fantastic. And I'm just able to spam rocks there, because if he was to defog again, hoping that I would Sludge Wave, that would be kind of bad for me. So I just continue to go up for rocks. And now here I get my Latios back in, as I just go right for Dragon Pulse, as he sends in his Celebi. Now this is strange to me, because that damage reveals to me that he is like no HP on Celebi, or very, very minimal HP on Celebi. And I was expecting him to be a pretty bulky one for sure, at least max HP. So that was surprising me, and that tells me, you know what? This could be a Scarf Celebi for a couple reasons. Number one, the way he switched this in, tells me that he might be able to outspeed me and just knock me out here, or just, you know, get himself some momentum with a nice U-turn knockout, or just knock me out with whatever coverage move he has. And that would be good for him, because Latios could still come in on a few of his members and just fire off a major attack. So that's one thing that it tells me. Another thing that it tells me is, or another reason that I think it could be Scarf, is because he can outspeed the majority of my team, because I have that speed gap with a Choice Scarf, and do pretty good damage to most of it. And for Celesteela, which he can't do too much damage to, +2 Celesteela gets outrun by Scarf Celebi, and he can go for something like Thunder Wave, which would be really annoying for an Autotomy Celesteela. So I'm thinking that this Celebi might be Scarf here. And because of that, I am expecting a U-turn here, or a Thunder Wave or something like that, which makes me switch into my Azumarill, because Latios is going to be really important for ensuring that Celesteela is able to set up later, or even Mega Tyranitar. So I'm going to switch out into my Azumarill as he does go for the Thunder Wave. So I'm like, okay, he probably is Choice Scarf. So now, if he's not Choice Scarf, he is either going to go for a Recover or something like a Giga Drain or Energy Ball or whatever it is. And if he is Choice Scarf, then he is going to switch out into something most likely like Rotom, because I don't think he'd want to sack off Scizor, either Rotom or Charizard, both of which Latios gets the matchup on. So it covers a lot of plays, because if he goes for another Thunder Wave, just staying in, locked himself into Thunder Wave or whatever, then, okay, not the biggest deal in the world to get Latios paralyzed. If he switches out into one of those Pokemon that I mentioned before, Latios gets the matchup. If he goes for Giga Drain or Energy Ball, I have enough HP to live that from the range that I'm at, because I'm thinking that he's going to be just some type of, like, you know, weak Celebi, or like unboosted Celebi. If he has Life Orb or something, yeah, he'll knock me out, but if he's not Life Orb, then I can live one of those attacks. So I switch in my Latios as he actually goes for the Leaf Storm and he misses. Now, this 100% matters. That was going to knock me out, and him missing really sucks, because now I essentially just get another kill. As you're going to see, I could just lock in a Dragon Pulse. I can't lock in a Shadow Ball because of this Raticate. So here he brings in the Raticate, and Latios is still important. I'll get back to that Leaf Storm miss in a little bit, but let's continue with the game for now. Latios is still important, because if I come in on Rotom or Charizard, I can fire off an attack. But if this Raticate is Swords Dance, which is the biggest threat to me, or just an all-out attacking set with Life Orb, I can potentially come in on this, and he thinks he could Sucker Punch, and I can Memento on him, and then go into something else like Celesteela and set up, because Celesteela is looking like my win con. If I can get it in on anything other than Charizard, then if I can get Celesteela in on anything other than Charizard, then I most likely win. So I am going to switch out into my Tyranitar here, as he actually goes for a U-turn. So that tells me that there's a good chance that he's Scarf. I don't want to believe that yet, though, because non-Scarf Raticate is just so good against me. So I'm not so sure that I want to believe that he's Scarf just because he does have U-turn. But it tells me for sure that he's not, you know, boosted like Life Orb or Choice Band. But Swords Dance, or even just Life Orb or Dark, because he's got a Z Alolan Raticate, and Darkinium Alolan Raticate is so good against me, or Iron Tail, whatever he wants to run. It's just all so good against me. So I don't want to believe that he is just a Scarf Raticate yet, but I definitely have it in the back of my mind that this is a possibility now, which honestly would be a better case scenario. So he goes right into the Scizor, and I am just going to go right for the Crunch here, as that does a lot of damage, and he goes for the Bug Bite, and he knocks me out. As now I go into my Celesteela, and it's sort of a 50-50 here. I go for the Autotomize, because if he does go into Charizard, if he goes hard into Charizard, not only does he risk me being Flyinium, but also I have a Azumarill for Charizard, which can help me out, or help me deal with this quite a bit. And if I could just force out the Charizard and keep it under like 50%, then Celesteela will be able to knock it out with an Air Slash, unless he's a really, really bulky one. So overall, I feel my best play here is Autotomize, because if I do go for Autotomize and he stays in, then I pretty much just get a kill and win the game. But sorry, that's my dog in the background. As you see, I do go for the Autotomize, and man, she's loud. So I go for the Autotomize, as he does make the good play and goes right into Charizard. So that is unfortunate, but I'm still in a solid position, because I can go right into my Azumarill, and I can go for the Choice Band and Aqua Jet here, and we do break out of the sorry, stuttering my words. We do break out of the paralysis, and we get the kill with the Aqua Jet. So now he goes into Rotom, and I'm just looking to sack Azumarill, because at this point, Celesteela is looking like it's going to be able to win this game, as I just go for the Aqua Jet, and I get paralyzed. As here he goes into Raticate, and now I'm thinking that he's going to just Sucker Punch me and knock me out, because I'm still not convinced that he's going to be Scarf. But he actually switches back into the Rotom. And I think that he went back into Rotom because Eradicate might be in range from there. I don't think it is, but it might be in range. It might at least be in range of Stealth Rocks if I get that Aqua Jet off. And maybe he expected me to go into Celesteela on the Rotom because, or on the Eradicate, because he knows that he's Scarf and he knows that he can't do too much to my Celesteela. So I guess he felt he didn't want to risk Azumarill doing too much damage with Aqua Jet, and then I might just go right into Celesteela anyway, so this is kind of a coverall play. And I get a crit on that Aqua Jet. Now, that matters as well, because if I did not get that crit, then this Aqua Jet wouldn't have a chance to knock him out here. But I did just get paralyzed on the turn before, while his Rotom was still in, so had I got that damage off, then this Aqua Jet would be able to knock him out for sure. So like, yeah, the crit is less likely than me getting paralyzed, but still, there's a 75% chance I don't get paralyzed, and I did. So, you know, it wasn't, I don't think that was the craziest thing in the world. I offered Greg a restart a million times because, you guys know me, I don't like winning with hacks, and I'd rather take a loss that's clean than win with hacks. But restarts aren't his style, so he just didn't want to do that. But there, like I said, even though he did get crit, which was unfortunate, I did get parried, which would have put Rotom in that same spot. So here he brings in his Scizor, and I am just going to Aqua Jet one more time as he actually goes right back into his Raticate, as he really was expecting me to go into something else. But at this point, it just didn't really matter. I still kind of won at that point anyway. And I still kind of won even without all those extra, what's it called? I still would have won even without, for example, the paralysis and all that stuff. The only reason at the time I thought I might not win was because I thought the Raticate might not be Scarf. And if it wasn't Scarf and it was a Z move or something like that and had something like Sucker Punch, then if he got some damage off on me with Rotom, then things like Sucker Punch into Bullet Punch could potentially knock out my Celesteela. So at that point, I thought that sequence of hacks with the Aqua Jet crit, I thought that still might have mattered, but at that point it actually didn't matter because he was a Scarf Raticate, so I pretty much had the game in the bag anyway. But going back to that Leaf Storm miss, now the Leaf Storm miss, that one definitely mattered. That one could have changed the outcome of the game. The reason I say that is because if I did not have Latios, then it would have been entirely up to my Azumarill to be able to keep Charizard out, to keep it, you know, like get him to switch into something else, so I'm able to get my Celesteela in on something else. If I'm able to get my Celesteela in on something else, and Charizard would have taken one more round of Stealth Rocks, then, or if I was able to get one kill with Celesteela, anything like that, like if I'm able to get Charizard to take one more round of Stealth Rocks, or if I get some Aqua Jet damage off on it, or actually no, if I Aqua Jet and he's still alive, then he just kills Celesteela. But if I'm able to get him to switch into Stealth Rocks one more time, or if I'm able to get a kill with Celesteela, then I win the game. So it all came down to how Greg played it, because if Greg played it perfectly, where he was able to align everything where he makes sure that Charizard ends up in and knocking out Azumarill, so I'm forced to go into Celesteela last, and he can knock out the Celesteela before I get set up, then he would have won the game. But had I gotten Celesteela in on anything other than Charizard, then I win the game. So at the time, I thought he definitely should have won that game when he missed the Leaf Storm, but looking back on it, I still had a pretty good chance to win. It just was, it just pretty much solidified my win, because once I was able to keep my Latios, which was able to not only pressure the rest of his team or potentially set up a Memento, which could allow me to even set up on Charizard with Celesteela, the Latios was just another sack as well, which could force Charizard to, you know, come in and out and keep it low enough to the point where Celesteela wins the game. So that miss ensured my victory. It didn't absolutely cost him the game where he would have won for sure. I still had a pretty good chance to win. but it certainly ensured my victory. So that was unfortunate. I'm sorry to Greg because obviously I don't like winning by hacks. As I mentioned before, I did offer the restarts, but he didn't want to go with it. But whatever it is, at the end of the day, this is the game that we play. I lost to Trev, getting crit twice in 3 turns, which with a 4-point critical hit rate, or 4% chance critical hit rate, that's pretty crazy. And it wasn't even like both of those crits caused me to lose. Like if he got one and not the other, I still would have had a really good chance. So that sucked for me. And that's just, you know, there's been a lot of hacksy games so far this NPL season, so that's just kind of how it goes. Unfortunately, it's the game that we play, and there's not too much you can do about it, but, you know, it is what it is. Definitely happy to get the win, because we really needed the win. Like, now we're 3-2, and it makes playoffs a lot more likely going forward. We have to make sure that we, you know, keep racking up some more wins, but I would say if we get, you know, around 3 more wins, then we will have a really good shot at playoffs. I would imagine 6-4 gets in. So that definitely puts us in a better spot, especially considering Greg was one of our worst matchups by far. So getting a win in a matchup that was so bad for me is nice, but it just kind of stinks that I took away Greg's chances with that miss. I didn't do it, but that's what happened. So whatever it is, that's just how the game went. Sorry, Greg, but you're going to have to play some nice weeb tracks in your video, and I'm free of having to play any cupcake tracks. And you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen, I am not washed up. You see me dodge that leaf storm, there's no way I could be washed up with all that skill. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely go check out Greg's channel. He is an awesome guy, and I think that you really like it. And that about wraps up all I have to say in this video. Check out the rest of the NPL content that comes out this week. Stay tuned for week 6, where we will be playing Togavor, the returning Togavor. I was actually going to be playing Daniki, but he ended up dropping out of the NPL this season, which also kind of sucks, because if you guys saw my March Madness run, I was supposed to be playing Daniki in those pool games, and I thought I was playing against him, but I really didn't take the game seriously because I was already out, and I had to go somewhere later that night. So I'm like, okay, cool. I get to play him in NPL, so it doesn't matter. This game doesn't matter too much. I'll take the other one seriously. And it turned out not to be him. It turned out to be Turbo, and I was pissed because if I knew it was Turbo, I don't know when I'm going to get to play him next. I would have taken that seriously. But then I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, at least I still get to play Daniki later on. It's not like I never get the chance to play him. But now he quit, so now I don't get the chance to play him. But he's off to bigger and better things, so that's good for him. And we get to play against the returning Togavor, so that is also cool because he's a great player. So that is it. That's it for this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely let me know what you thought in the comments below, but most importantly, have yourselves a fantastic day, as I will see you all in the next one. Later.